know that the whole thought behind it when we were negotiating was to provide a contract that was going to be competitive. The whole thought was we wanted to retain and attract people to the district, and I believe that with this contract, we're going to be able to do just that. It's a 3-year contract, and in the first year of the contract, it's going to be a 5% raise to the teachers. The second year of the contract will be a 4% raise, and then the third year of the contract will be a 3% raise. The cost of year one would be $6.2 million. Year two would be $5.6 million, and then year three would be $4.2 million. Each year of the contract, the teachers are going to get one step. So every year of the contract, they'll move up on the scale. It is retro pay, so the moment we ratify the contract, the teachers are going to get their money from the previous months that we were negotiating. So they're very excited about that. They'll see a nice raise immediately. Some of the items that were different from the previous contract, the longevity bonus. It went from being $1,500 for 15 and 19 years, it's going to jump up to $2,000. From 20 to 24 years, it's going to jump up to $3,000. And then for 25 years plus, it jumps up to $4,000. Another item that we added to the contract is the loyalty bonus, and that essentially is for anyone that graduates from Wayne Westland. They get a one-time bonus where they'll get $2,000. So essentially, the thought behind that is we want to promote from within. So if someone's a graduate of this community or the school district and they want to stay here and work, we want to give them $2,000, and we think that's going to promote a lot of Wayne pride. Another thing that we talk about are the riders. So those would be if someone's coaching, if someone takes on extra duty, extra work. We've raised, the way that we calculated it is from it initially was from $45,000 for each year of the contract. We upped the amount of money. So for the 25-26 year, it's going to be calculated from $48,500, and then from 26 to 27, it's going to be calculated from $50,000. And we identified some of the riders that we believe were a little bit more work, and we upped the percentage rate for some of those riders. Inside of the packet that everyone got, we highlighted any new contract language. So if you guys want to just kind of peruse that over the weekend, you can see some of the things that are changing a little bit. Some of the big things that are different in the contract that we had a lot of discussions around were class sizes. It was really important for us across the district to lower the class sizes because we believe if we have lower class sizes and we were able to raise the financial package, it makes it more lucrative for our teachers, but more importantly, it allows us to have more attention for the instruction that's going on in the classroom. Another thing that's different in this contract is the placement. So in other words, right now, if someone, if a position is vacant, what we're doing now, what we weren't doing, is we're going to give internal candidates the opportunity to apply for those jobs before we post them external applicants. That's something that's new. Another thing that's different is around discipline. So in the previous contract, teachers didn't have the ability to grieve discipline. Right now, we have a standard that we have to meet as a district, which is just cause. So essentially, it's a higher standard, and if they were to grieve and it were to go to arbitration, in order for the district to be supported by the arbitrator, we have to meet that standard. Another thing that was different in the contract is, let me see, a big one. This doesn't really have any financial bearing, but as far as like association dues, the district's going to be working with the union to provide different items for them, just to further promote the people being a part of their union. Tigers Day, that was one that was not in the contract before. We're allowing us teachers to use that as a personal business day if they choose. That was excluded in the previous contract.
Excuse me, so you say Tigers Day?
It's opening day.
Opening day.
Opening day?
Yeah.
So what, they get to take off?
If they use a personal business day. So everybody has an opportunity to use personal business days. That was one they didn't have that option in the previous contract.
I don't think there's a lot of people that use that anymore.
Well, that was part of the reason. It was an issue in the past where we had a ton of people that were taking it. As we looked at the amount of people that were taking it.
They started losing, no one cared. That's about what happened.
Well, opening day is big.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, and I forgot to mention one other one. Another one that's a real big thing is the ECE. So our early childhood center, our kiddos at Stoudemire, they're now a part of the contract. So the thought behind that is over at Livonia, over at Plymouth Canton, what kind of the growing trend is they're putting the early childhood contracts into an EA contract, and that puts them on a different scale. So we have all of our teachers in that space have BAs. They'll be on the BA salary schedule, and all of the things that apply in the EA contract will now apply to them. And I can tell you that that's kind of the growing trend, and we want to be competitive with that space. So that contract is now eliminated, and we've added it to this contract. So there's 15 members that are part of that space that are now part of the EA contract.
There are great RGSRP teachers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's something that I know, I got a lot of feedback about them when they were voting as membership. They were thrilled, and we believe not only is that gonna keep our teachers in this district, it's going to give us an opportunity to attract other people from neighboring districts as well. So those are the big financial tickets or items. And one thing that I'm happy to say is that we've finished up WABA, which are our principals. We're now done with this one, and we'll be starting up the next round of our negotiations, likely with our WACOA leadership and some of the other collective bargaining groups. So within the next few months, we'll be knocking all of them out, and by the summertime, we'll be done with all of the negotiations for all of the contracts. And one of the things that we wanted to do is make sure that we had a multi-year contract. And so now we've got a 3-year for WABA, a 3-year for our EA, and as we're negotiating with other groups, that's gonna be the hope for everyone that we negotiate with.
Any questions? Yeah.
Ms. Gill.
So I have two. The first one is just around the enrollment piece, and just, I don't have a problem with the language that's there. I just wanna make sure that, so Article 6, teaching conditions, just about when kids are enrolled. So if they are enrolled before noon, they'll start the following day, and any student enrolled after 12 will start the second school day.
Right.
I just wanna make sure that our policy aligns with that, because we have to have a policy for McKinney-Ventos, families, and we have to have a policy for foster care.
Sure.
So I just wanted to lift that to make
I
sure we
appreciate
were
that.
in alignment.
And the thought behind that was we were having situations where it was a little bit all over the place from building to building, and we didn't want to put teachers in a position where we have a new family, new kid, they
Yeah.
come and we're not prepared to welcome them in appropriately.
I don't have a problem with it, I just wanted to make sure our policy says the same thing
I got
that is in this contract, or vice versa, if that makes sense.
I'll make a note of that.
And then the other question I had was, I know we had some conversation around the evaluation, not so much as the process,
Right.
but the what's considered to be effective, what's considered to be needing improvement. I know I don't see that detailed in here. Is that something that comes after the fact? How's
It
that
does.
working?
And I'll let Jen kind of elaborate, but essentially, we're gonna be working with the union on identifying what those, what the instructional criteria will be to meet the percentage of the evaluation.
Okay.
Part of the reasoning behind that too is because we have, just so I can see everybody, we are mid-year, right? So we thought, okay, growth plans are set, teachers have done their goals and all these, right? So to shift right now in January, it's not good for anybody. So, and reflecting on what we did last time is we came together with the union at the table, and with, and you know, like Joe from assessment and some other key people, and knowing what the new state rules are again of the 20% coming back, to say, now let's have a conversation. So that 30%, though, I will tell you from our team, is going to be higher. And at the time when it was set, NWA was new, there was all these other factors coming into play. So we will convene with the union probably February or March, so that by the time they come back next year, that rubric per se will look differently. So
And then we'll just be informed.
For
of
sure.
the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
And I just had a quick question, not to be all facetious, but with a lot of changes going on federally with these different executive orders, how will that affect our union contracts? Will it be, because I don't want to be, you know, like with the school districts, we don't want to get sued all the time because stuff is going on. How would that affect?
Wait, so are you talking about our unions within our school district,
Yeah, like with our
or?
contracts, so what's going on federally right now, all these executive orders cause a lot of issues, and then with our union contracts, would it be an issue, you know, with the government and our contracts?
I would say if there's anything that ever comes from the federal level that is,
Supersedes.
yeah, that we have to follow those guidelines, but we would make sure to be informed, be transparent with the community, with the board, and we'll be lifting those things up. We do have a contract that we have to follow, but if there's a federal guideline that trumps anything that we have, at the district level. But if anything does come, we'll make sure to make it public to everyone in this room.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about, ton of loss, you know, we're in the middle of contract, and we got all this stuff going on, we gotta get our contracts, and we don't wanna be, you know, unfortunately, we have to follow the rules, you know, we don't wanna get a bunch of lawsuits, like, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't know if that, the contract, is there any other questions with
Oh,
the
I forgot about
contract? Or
Jewel.
then there was also, oh yeah, the general, I know you had a chance too, if you looked at the budget, she will do a formal presentation, and then her contract as well, and then with the Marshall property, I just wanted to give people time to get any questions.
Okay, so, the contract has not been signed yet, right? But have the teachers, what feedback are we getting? Are the teachers happy with the
Great
contract?
feedback. So they presented to their union membership as of last week. First to all of the EA members and then to the folks in the GSRP that are now going to be joining the contract. And before they can move forward and before I can present it to you, they have to vote in favor of it. So they voted and it was a resounding support of the contract.
Okay, so I will be asking that same question at the board
Sure.
meeting, so for the community.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And then as far as Jewel's contract, as you guys know, Jewel has been a part of the team, but now she's officially gonna be a part of the team. We, inside of your packet, she's gonna be, we're making a recommendation to the board that she becomes our next CFO. You guys can look through the contract. She's gonna be on the salary schedule of our assistant soups, but the specifics of her contract are within the packet that everyone has.
3 years, 3 years. Me and her gonna walk out of here together.
Okay.
Gonna be the same.
Let's talk about the Marshall space real quick.
Okay, I have brought this to your attention before in a couple of different board meetings in regards to us having, two offers, on the Marshall. We moved forward, we will be moving forward, on Monday night with, the offer that, was presented by Pulte Builders. They presented an offer that, and I'll give you the Reader's Digest version of it, but it's $500,000 for the property. Plus they're going to pay for the demolition, which could be in excess of $3 million to $3.5 million. I guess the biggest thing for us is, we were blessed that this happened now, because this was going to go into our next bond, which would have consumed at least minimum of $3 to $3.5 million to demo that building. Also, we just turned off the water and heat and everything in that building at this point, so we're saving money in that sense too. But really, the offer's probably at the end, because we're gonna be getting what they call Brookfield dollars that builders can receive. It's almost like a grant. We'll get half of that too, so.
Is it Brownsfield?
Brownsfield, sorry. Yep, Brownsfield. If you know about Brownsfield, then you're gonna know more than I do, because I don't really understand it, and not many people understand it, but I'm sure that they do. And we're supposed to get at least 50% of what they receive in that Brownsfield grant. So this deal could end up being in excess of $4 million for the district, based on the demo, the price of the land, and so on. Want to talk about the Kettering too?
Yeah.
Is there any questions about the Marshall property?
So, where do this money go?
General fund.
General fund. And so, when they sign the contract, when they sign the mortgage or whatever for the property,
Yep.
do we get that $500? Cause I see that they put $10,000 down, $20,000 down.
Yep.
And then after they have the inspection, they have to put another $10,000 down.
Correct.
So when do they pay the whole $500,000?
Once they actually retain the property. And what I mean by that is, we can sign off on it. The city, they're in negotiations, I guess, with the city right now.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be that long. I think what happened was it was a little bit delayed, because when they came in, it was right around Thanksgiving and Christmas. I don't think there's gonna be any holdup with a builder like Pulte, who builds houses all over the world. I don't think that Westland is gonna give them a problem right now. The only reason we haven't went to that next step is because they haven't got all their permits signed by the city to build on that property. So, just like you said, when you read through the contract, they're in for $20,000 at this point, regardless if they get the building permits or not. They're already, that money's gone and it's to us. Once they do get those, we'll get another 10. And then once everything is signed and taken care of through our attorneys and their attorneys, we'll receive the 500,000, almost like when you buy a house.
Right,
Yep.
absolutely.
No
absolutely.
different. But then right now, the only thing that is holding back a little bit is the process that they have to go through the city to get, you know, their water retention. You have to get a permit for almost everything you do.
Absolutely. So what they planning on doing with the, property housing?
They're gonna build condos on that property.
Okay,
Not condos or houses, I shouldn't say that.
Kettering was
Kettering,
originally
yeah.
condos, but
so did we
Marshall
get
is
any
houses.
feedback about, from the, people in the community, especially on that block?
Regarding what they think, I think it's gonna, to me, if I live on that block, that property value is gonna skyrocket for me, because they're gonna build houses that are probably going to be in excess of, I'd say 300,000 at least
Okay,
in that space. So for me, just as me and you probably were thinking, okay, you're gonna put these, Pulte doesn't necessarily, they build a really nice house, so you're gonna put at least, I'd say $300,000 house in that property, and it's only going to enhance all the property around it. And we're gonna get kids.
You'll be worried about, traffic also, but I guess they used to the traffic because it was a school, okay.
They are. They're
okay.
probably getting as much traffic when it was a school.
Right,
and-
absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
even if you put a subdivision with 35, 40 houses in it, if anyone's ever been in front of Westland, John Glenn, or Wayne High in the morning, there's nothing that compares to that traffic.
Plus, they have access to Cherry Hill.
Oh,
Yes.
So that neighborhood will be able to empty out onto Cherry Hill rather than,
That's a good point.
Side Street.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is, actually, when I say it's we were, for it to happen right now before we put it in the grant, it was, we are really blessed to be in this situation where we're not having to spend $3 million, we can put it towards our kids, in the school district, rather than a demo.
Right.
So, yeah, at the end of the day, that property's probably gonna get us in excess of $4 million, on all said and done. Yes, Kim?
Thank you so much.
So, with the Brownsfield Development Grant, that's something that they still have to apply for, correct? Or
I
that has-
think they're applying for it now. According to our realtor, who deals with them a lot, he says they never, usually if they apply for it, they get the money.
Okay.
So I've asked, like, what is 50%? They can't give me a number because
Right,
they
so
don't
they
know
get
how
the
much
grant.
they're
Yeah,
gonna
and
get.
I just want to know where they were in the process of applying.
Yeah, they've
for the grant.
applied for it, and once they retain the property and have everything in line, I think that's probably when they're gonna determine what they're gonna get. But our realtor said, that our broker told me that they always get it.
Yeah, they knew that before they gave us any money.
Right.
Okay, if we could, we'll suspend this if we have to talk about it. It's good to have Ms. Belposh with us from MASB, and she is coming now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having me and thank you for your patience. As we fight the good fight with technology. Always glad when that doesn't just happen in my office or my, like my computer. No, it's a universal issue. Like Fred said, my name is Mackenzie Felpush. I'm the Education Programming Manager at the Michigan Association of School Boards. Basically means it's my job to put together workshops, conferences, trainings for school board members all around the state. It's very, very cool gig. Before I did this, I worked with elementary and middle school principals at the Michigan Elementary and Middle School Principals Association. Did communications and professional learning there. For that, I was a classroom teacher, taught middle school and high school for 15 years. So everyone's always like, oh, are you okay getting up and talking in front of adults? I'm talking in front of 13-year-olds. Like, I'm good. Nothing compares to middle schoolers. So it is an absolute pleasure to be with you this morning and to spend some time talking about one of my favorite things to talk about, which is the disc typology. So I want to be mindful of our time this morning because Saturdays are precious. But I also want to make sure that your goals are being met as well as the ones that I have put together for us as well. So As we kind of dive in this morning, here are three objectives that I have for our time together. And as we start with these, my question to you is going to be, what are your objectives that are missing from this list? And before we do this, everyone should have a packet that we put together for you. It has all sorts of goodies in here. Your individual printed report from your assessment is here, as well as your team report, which we will spend time going over together, so you don't need to jump into that and get lost in it right now. It's a lot of data and a little overwhelming. You also have a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, and then some colored paper, and a little table tent that we will get to momentarily.
Thank you for putting it in color.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Also, business card in case you have any questions, anything comes up that you want to talk more about. Okay, so things that we're going to do today. We are going to look at understanding behavioral styles, what they are, how they work, create some common vocabulary. We are going to explore our own individual styles, as well as learning about the styles of the other people in this room. And then number 3 is to look at how we can begin to adapt our own communication. I forget how I wrote this, so that we can improve understanding amongst our team. Okay. So what is missing? Do you have goals that you would like to add to our time together? Feeling good? Kim?
I am, I think.
Okay.
I was just thinking about like, I don't know if it would be like a commitment, but just like this isn't a one and done, or meaning like we sit here, we get this information, but then we don't actually utilize the information.
Right.
So maybe that's that piece where I was just thinking about, in
Yeah.
my head, the utilization of this information to form a more cohesive team.
Fantastic. Hopefully, in my dream of our time together this morning is that your world will be rocked. I mean, like, how did I function without this in my life before? But like everything that we dip our toe in or we learn, it really is about that commitment, right? How are we going to move forward with this? When we get into looking at our team report, you'll see like my guiding question for you as we start into that work is, what might this mean for our team? Because that really is the question, right? Is this just a nice way to spend a Saturday morning, or what are we going to commit to?
And I know Mackenzie and I talked a little bit before, and I think just that importance too of like even recognizing ourselves, right? Of like what behaviors we have as individuals, and then even how we can adjust some of our behaviors to meet the needs of others. So it's more about self-reflection and how can we as individuals better the team, right? It's not that I'm just irritated at Alex because Alex does X, Y, and Z. Nope, what do I need to adjust so that when I'm working with Alex, we are more cohesive and we are moving the train forward. So
Such power in that
Yes.
as a team. Yes, ma'am.
And, well, I was gonna say something like that, but the other thing I was gonna say, just the fact that we all don't have to agree, and to respect the fact that, this person feels this way, and that is 7 of us. Or even when availability, outside of our volunteer work and the things that we do for the school board, most of us have jobs.
Right.
And the flexibility that a meeting when you can't make it.
Right. Yep. All of those things start gelling together, right?
Absolutely.
So those are all things that we will hold as we move forward. This is always an interesting workshop for me to do because I have looked at all of your reports. I feel like I know you all, but I don't actually. So I kind of have to remind myself, like, I know Kim, we've worked together, but like, I've never met Alex before, but I feel like I know him. But what I don't actually know at all is how long you've been either on the board or with the district, kind of what your job is. And I'm also interested, like Luana said, if you have other things in your world, what your day job, all those kinds of things, if we could do a very quick, just kind of around the room, so that we can get so I can get a sense, maybe you don't know either, right? Somebody's like, I'm in community theater, and everyone's, what? I had no idea, right? So that will just kind of help enrich our conversation today, and make sure I have everybody's names locked in. So, ma'am, could we start with you? Would you just say who you are, how long you've been with the district, and maybe what you do outside of your work on the board?
Okay, well, my name is Luana Abney Mitchell. This is my 3rd year on the board. And in the community, I do a lot of things in the Inkster community, but one of the things that I do that I get paid for, I work with behavioral health. I take clients to appointments. So I take them to their personal care appointments. I take them to the doctor. I take them bowling. I take whatever they choose to do. I do that a couple of days a week.
You are people.
I gotta be around people.
Fantastic.
I
Thank
like
you.
people that don't talk though.
Kim, can we hop to you, please?
So, I'm Kimberly May. I have been on the board going into my 5th year. I'm also a former parent in the district. My son graduated from Glenn in 2021. My day job is I work for Plymouth Canton Community Schools as the Director of State and Federal Programs and Continuous Improvement. Been an educator for almost 30 years now. Also do some work with MASB. I also have a nonprofit, and I sit on a couple other boards related to my day job. So,
Full transparency, Kimberly and I work on the same team at MASB. So she is one of our consultants. We are thrilled to have her.
Hey everyone, my name is Shannon Roshan. I'm new to the board.
Welcome.
First year. I have children that graduated from the district. My day job, I do a lot. But one thing I do, I have my own nonprofit. I also work for another nonprofit as a nonprofit development director. And I'm glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Shannon.
Hi, my name is Jewel Claire. I've only been with the district 5 months as kind of a consultant, fill-in between finance directors. Except I'm gonna be take a full-time job here.
Congratulations.
If I get approved on Monday night.
It's looking good.
Yes.
That's about it. And I don't have a lot going on other than work.
This is enough.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Melody, can we come to you?
Yes, so my name is Melody Hines. I've been on the Wayne Westland Board of Education for 11 years. Super excited. I graduated from Wayne Westland. My son went to Wayne Westland schools. I have my own consulting firm, Hines Consulting and Management Services. So I help small businesses develop. Actually sit on the Wayne County Women's Commission, and I just started working for the Wayne Chamber of Commerce. So I've been working on like different, getting the businesses in the community together. And I'm the new president of the Wayne Westland Kiwanis. So I like doing community service and helping people, and it's really exciting.
You are also a people person. I learned that about. I actually knew that about you before I even read your desk report. Sir.
Andrew Ambrose. I'm new to the board.
Welcome.
I work as an engineer for Ford Motor Company at Flat Rock Assembly Plant. I'm a parent in the district. My youngest actually graduates this year from Wayne Memorial. That'll be so looking forward to seeing where she goes in her next steps.
Great. Big senior year. Exciting stuff.
I'm David Cox. I first got elected to the board back in '97, but in terms of time, probably served 9 years. Also, my children graduated from the district, and I've raised them here in the community, and I've lived my entire life here. I retired from the banking profession, and now I'm an assessor, and I'm a consultant. I do independent property tax appeal actions, and also I run a transportation company.
Busy, busy. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jen Curry. I'm the current interim superintendent and assistant superintendent of curriculum instruction. Been in the district almost 26 years now, education 28. I mean, I've always loved my job. I was just saying to someone this morning that I've never had a job that felt like a job, which has been great. But even outside, I'd like to just, hit the gym and spend time with our 2 daughters who are in their 20s now. And yeah, I'm excited for today.
Thank you.
All right, my name is Alex O'Feely. I am the Assistant Superintendent for Human Resources here in Wayne Westland. This is year 3 in the position. On the personal front, I have 3 younger children. I have a 5th grader, a 2nd grader, and a kindergartner. I'm excited to do this because one of the things that the reason why I'm looking forward to this, most of the time we spend with our board is kind of us sitting in a presentation in the boardroom, and we don't really get an opportunity to know who we work with. So to find out about the people that we work so closely with on a personal level, I appreciate that. So I'm looking forward to some of the discoveries that take place there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Scott Toko, Assistant Superintendent of Administrative Services. I've been in education for 34 years. This is my 5th year in the district. I have 2 grown children, and just in the last 6-7 months I have a grandchild. So that kind of consumes most of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to like Alex stated, we really, I've been in several districts and haven't done one of the, in the position that we work with the board, and it's kind of interesting that we don't, and I know you do a lot of these probably, but I've never been involved in one to this extent where you can actually figure out who you're actually talking to. Because typically you can be I've been in this space for 5 years, and we really have a hard time getting to know the people that we have to work with, that we're making major decisions that are impacting the district, and some people don't even know.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's sad. So I think this is definitely something that can support that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Fred?
Yeah, Fred Weaver, Vice President of the board. I've been on the board 20+ years. My wife is a counselor in the district. I have 2 kids that graduated from the district. I won the President's Award.
You certainly did. Congratulations.
And I'm first and foremost a pastor.
Oh, wonderful. I did not know that. Wonderful. Well, thank you for being here, and congratulations on your President Award. That was very exciting. MASB, as board members learn through their service years, we recognize that and tally that. And after, what is it, Fred? 1,300 hours or something of learning, we award what we call a President's Award. This year, I think five board members in the entire state earned the award, and since the inception of the program in 1990, only like 110 have ever earned it. So it's a big deal to us to be able to recognize that work and that service. So thank you for that. All right. Well, I just get so excited about this work. I'm such a nerd about it because it really has impacted my own practice on my own team and in my own just life, right? With my husband, with my daughter. I just think it makes a big difference, which is one of the reasons I love to be able to bring it to you. So before we jump into what DISC is, let's talk a little bit about what it isn't. It isn't about intelligence. There are lots of different ways to be smart. This does not measure it. That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about motivations. You actually took a second assessment that I just threw in for funsies that looks at drivers and motivators, what spurs us on to do the things that we do. We're not talking about that today. It is in the back of your report, though, if you ever want to take a gander or have a conversation about it. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. Love to chat. DISC isn't about skills. It's not about skills that we acquire, skills that we learn. It isn't even about experience, right? I have experiences, you have experiences that teach us things. And it's not about what we've learned. It's more about like who we are, how we function in the world, okay? So the way that we like to say it is it's about how we do what we do. So we are all going to interact with people. DISC will give us an insight into how we interact with people. We all send emails. DISC will give us an insight into how we send emails, right? We all collaborate on presentations, or we all look at finance reports. How we do that is different depending on our kind of recipe that DISC will give us words for. So some things that DISC is, okay? Some key points as we start building our foundation here. DISC deals with observable human behavior. DISC is not a value judgment. It is just looking at how we move in the world, things that we can observe about ourselves and one another. Also, please be impressed by my PowerPoint skills, okay? I learned this on Instagram. It's not perfect, but I'm so proud of myself. Okay, number 2, no style is good or bad. When you were a kid, did you ever take a quiz like in Highlights magazine, or I'll date myself, 17, right? It's like, it's Friday night, what are you doing? And you know which one is the good answer, right? DISC isn't that.
Okay.
There isn't one style that is good versus bad. It's just a recipe. There's nothing good, bad, right, wrong. It's just our own special mix. Number 3, DISC helps us have a better understanding of ourselves. Like, that has to come first, but also others. Right? When I understand something about myself, it impacts how I move in the world. And we're going to talk about lots of examples of that. Number 4, DISC is our doorway to communication. So much of what we do is about communication, right? And as you work as a team of board members, an admin team, and as you work together, so much of what you do is communication. How do we even put a percentage on it, right? It's written communication, it's oral communication, it's relationships, it's time before meetings and after meetings and at breaks and at podiums and listening and all of those things. DISC can impact all of that. All right, 2 more. Okay, be really impressed right now. Look at this, Melody, can you believe it? Okay, number 5, DISC is an acronym, right? We'll talk about what those are, but there's 4 kind of ingredients as if we were making a pie, okay? Every person has some of all 4 styles, okay? Everybody has their own special recipe that makes them them. And then the last bit, and this is super important, that's why it's at the end, so we remember it. No matter what our own personal recipe is, we can adapt. So my own personal recipe might be, I have a really difficult time moving quickly. Full transparency, that is 100% true, okay? But I can do it. I can adapt,
Right.
okay? So those are the foundational understanding kinds of pieces, right? That as we move forward, there's no good, bad, right, wrong. Everybody has their own recipe. It impacts lots of different pieces in our lives. And as we come to understand it, we can adapt. Even so, as I know myself better, I can make adaptations to be able to, work with people in the world and not just expect them to put up with my own quirks. All right, let's define some terms. So I said DISC is about 4 different factors, 4 different pieces of our recipe. The first one is dominance, okay? Dominance measures how we deal with problems and challenges. Some people have a lot of D in their recipe. They see a problem or a challenge and they're like, boom, done, handled. Others of us see a problem or a challenge and we say, must reflect, right? We both deal with problems and challenges, just differently. So how much D we have in our mix determines how we handle problems and challenges. Some of us are more direct, some of us are more reflective. So far so good? I know I'm talking a lot in this part. You're gonna talk in just a minute, so prepare yourself. Number 2, a factor here is influence. This is the I factor. Preview, a lot of you pay attention here, okay? I measures how we deal with people. The more I we have in our recipe, the more people-oriented, the more outgoing we tend to be. Those of us who have less I are more reserved. Doesn't mean we don't like people. That's not what that means, right? It's not a value, it's a how. Some of us move through the world. I'm gonna use the word using, but I don't mean that in a negative way, right? We move through the world through people. Some of us move through the world through information, or through math, or through, like, pick your way, right? But the people who have a lot of I move through the world with people. The third factor is S. This measures steadiness. Steadiness, the green factor here, is about pace and consistency. So those of us who have a lot of S, and this is me, by the way, okay, we move slowly. We require processing time. We like things that are predictable and steady. It's so hard for me to understand. There are people in the world who are like, I don't need any of that, right? I don't need processing time. I don't need anything to be steady. I am dynamic. I make decisions quickly. I move quickly. My pace is fast. Can you imagine that having someone who has a lot of S in their recipe sitting next to someone who has no S in their recipe? Can you imagine how there might be conflict? Or what a brainstorming session might look like? Those of us who have a lot of S in our recipe, brainstorming can be difficult. If you just walk into a room and you don't know what you're walking into, and a person says, we're gonna look for ideas. I love ideas, but they take me time. I have to soak in it for a while, and then I'm ready. Right? People who don't have a lot of S in their recipe, they're quick. They don't need the time like I do. Last one, the last factor is C, which measures compliance. Compliance is how we deal with procedures and constraints. Do we follow rules? Does tradition matter? Some of us, yes. Precision is something that we do. Others of us are more pioneering. We're willing to try things. Just doesn't even factor in. Depending how much C you have in your makeup, this can be shocking to some people's systems. Yeah. Questions about this? How are we doing?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So you said depending on how much you have in your recipe, so less is better?
No, there's no better.
So less is what, so compliance.
Mhm.
So say like, I'm not gonna tell people what I got. Say like I got 100% in compliance on my
Okay.
card.
Okay, so if
So
you
how would that compare to somebody that got 60%?
okay, so if you have a very high on that bar graph, if you have a bar that is up there, that means that factor is very intense in your makeup, right? So if we're talking about compliance, you might be the person who, when you get a new small appliance for your kitchen, you fill out the warranty card and send it in,
Yes, okay.
right? You read all the directions for a new game before you play it,
Okay,
right? Your movie collection is alphabetized,
okay.
right?
Those kinds of behaviors are seen.
And
Jen?
when you say hi, because I know I might be jumping ahead, so stop me if I am, because we all are looking at our cards
Yes.
with that line. Hi would be above that line.
Above the line,
Okay.
yes.
Got
And we'll talk,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry.
this,
Yep.
the language is a little squishy right now,
Yeah.
which we'll talk about why in just a minute. If you don't have a lot of C, like let's say you had no C, there are people, I don't think we have any in this room. Is there anybody who has like no C? I don't think so. If you don't have any C,
I was like, maybe
Whew.
Scott.
It's just,
Mine's low, it's 40.
those of us who have low C, we do things like ask for forgiveness rather than permission. We are pioneering. We try things, right? It's not that we don't care about details. It's that we aren't fenced in by tradition, if that makes sense.
That makes sense to me.
Okay. Any other questions that you have? All right, I'm gonna like to show you a quick video that I think does a really good job of kind of setting this in place for us. And we'll see if
I'm over here trying to read my card.
it's
People are different. People are different. But they are predictably different. Do you believe that people are different? How many of you guys believe that people are different? Yes, of course, people are all different. How many of you believe that we can predict how someone will act or react in a given environment?
Yeah.
Let me show you how we do that. In the general population, there are 4 types of people, and we call them dominant, or the D style, influencing, or the I style, stable, or steady, which is the S style, and then the C style is the compliant style. And those are the people that make up our world, and you see those people all the time. You see those people all the time. If you've ever walked up to an elevator and saw the guy that presses the button and then steps back and looks at the button again, and then he presses it, and then he taps it or holds it, because he thinks that as he presses that, the elevator must surely arrive faster, that is the D personality style. Dominant, direct, they're drivers. They want to control their environment. They want to do something to make something happen in their world, and so they will keep their thumb on that button until the elevator comes. Now, once the doors open and everyone walks in and they close, the one guy that turns around and starts talking to people, the guy that's smiling because once the doors close, he knows he has a captive audience, that is the I personality style. They're the influencers. They're the ones when the door opens, he goes, boom, 3rd floor, lingerie, enjoy your day. Those are the I's. Now the S personality style, they're stable, steady, they're very relational. They are people. Now they're the people that if the door's starting to close, but there's somebody that may or may not be wanting to get on the elevator, they'll stick their hand out. There's plenty of room, come on in. Now the D is back there going, oh, come on, man, I gotta go. Like, why are you waiting? And the S is holding the door open. And if there's too many people, they'll say, you know what, I'll just take the stairs. Let get out, let somebody else go. You go on, it's okay. That's that S personality style. Very stable, steady. Now, the C's. The C personality style is the guy that's very quiet, off to the side, and he's standing there looking at the plaque that says maximum weight, 3,700 pounds. And he's calculating body weight. He's going, if one person gets on, I'm off. Like that's the guy. He's the guy that notices when the inspection date is due on the elevator. So those are the 4 personality styles. Now, Ds make up about 3% of the population. 3%. Do you know why? Because any more than 3% and we would be at war all the time. So God in his wisdom said, we need those Ds, we need those drivers, but let's keep them down to about 3% of the population. Is are about 11% of the population. And Is are fun to have around, but any more than 11% of the population, we would never get anything done. S's make up 69% of the population. They are the majority of people that you're going to be dealing with. Very stable, steady. Another S word for you, status quo. They like things the way things are right now. They make up 69% of the population. C's, what percent of the population would C's be? Okay, the person that said 17%, that person's a C. Do you know why? Because they did the math. They added it up and subtracted from it. Oh, 17. So there's the C. That's the C style. That's the C personality style. But it's important to know these personality styles. It's important to know, first of all, for you, what blend of those styles, because those blends are all in us. Any one of us could be any one of those styles. How many of you believe that your personality style can change based on your environment? Yeah, that's right. You know what? Your car is your environment. And so people who are very easygoing, very stable, steady, laid back, sometimes they get behind the wheel, they turn into a D. And then as soon as they lock the door, boop, boop, they're back to their, hi, how's everything? And so you see these people change their styles in the car. When you start to merge, the guy that gets in front or won't let you through, that's the D. That's the D style. He will take a dent before he lets you in front of him. He's like, I'll take the dent. You will, no. That's the D personality style. Now the I is the guy that's trying to get in because he didn't realize that they were merging. Do you know why? Because he's talking, he's singing a song, he's looking, he's like, hey, that was a good song. Last time I was down here, I remember there was a great radio. Oh, darn, I gotta merge. That's the I. And he's waving. Hey, can I come in? Hey, can I come in? Hey, can I come in? Now the S personality style, they're the people that eventually will let you in. And they're like, this isn't right, but look at that guy. He's obviously from out of town. All right, I'll let you in. Now that percentage of people probably goes down as construction goes up. Now the C's are rarely in that situation. You know why? Because those are the people that have planned their route. Well, you have to leave a half hour early because you're going to want to make sure you do that. So those are the personality styles. So people are different. They are predictably different.
All right.
People are different. People are different.
Yeah. Okay. What stood out to you from that little video?
It was kind of spot on.
Yeah,
I was putting myself in all those scenarios, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Thank you. Okay.
I think that people are different, based on the environment. Like people change, right? So, and I just think about how you'll see people, maybe people you work with, and then you'll run into them out, and you're like, whoa, this isn't, the same personality that I see daily at work. So,
Yeah. When I was teaching, my husband used to say he could tell who I was talking to on the phone just from my voice.
Yeah.
Right? Was I talking to a parent? Was I talking to a student? Was I talking to my mom? Was I talking to a friend? Just from the tone of my voice, right? We do those kinds of adaptations all the time. Yeah. What else? What else stood out to you?
Well, what stood out to me is that you could be all those things in a different environment. I look at this environment right here. Dr. Weaver and I both said that we work with people, we are people. And look at us, we at the table by ourselves. So that would make us what, like a D personality right now?
Well, this is a really good question, Lauren, because when you came in and you were picking your seat, do you remember what you said?
I said, I'm gonna sit over here so I can be good today
Right.
because of my dad.
Yes. So you recognized in yourself your wanting to connect, right?
Right.
And so you adapted your behavior to mitigate some of that, right?
Right.
To be like, I know in myself, when left to my own devices, I'm gonna sit in the middle and just talk to everybody all the time. So you shifted your behavior to change some of that.
Right.
Which is one of those grown-up things that we learn to do, right? My daughter is 14. We're trying to learn some of these behaviors,
Okay.
right? So, yeah, you recognize that in yourself, and you did an adaptation. Yeah.
Right. You're
Yeah.
right, and outside of the fact is, I got a mask on because we got a 6-year-old granddaughter that just had heart surgery.
Oh.
So now I'm trying to stay healthy so I
Yes.
can spend time with her.
See?
So
You're mitigating
it be a
behavior.
lot of stuff going on with one person that you're working with and you never
You
know
didn't
it.
know, yeah.
That's
Right.
right. Yeah.
I think the most important thing that I'm getting out of this is that every person has the ability to change and adapt. And I think that's important, especially on the board.
It is that we do those adaptations all the time to be able to, whether it's to manage our own behavior or to honor in other people their needs and desires and how they work. That's part of being in a community, right? Melanie.
And sometimes too, like me, being an influencer, I'm really good at sales, but I take other classes like understanding like brain freeze, emotional intelligence, like
Yeah.
certain things, so you can kind of start tailoring it, and those ones with the sorry, my brain, I'm thinking too fast. When it comes to oh my God, I'm freaking out, thinking too fast. But just like kind of like we take different things that kind of help you adjust your personality as
Yeah.
well. And it was one class we took at the bank when it comes to I can't even think, but emotional intelligence and I'm sorry.
It's all right.
I'm just thinking too hard.
If it comes back to you.
Yeah, but it just kind of just helps out like dealing with other people.
Yeah.
And just learn how to adjust like the way, even like when it comes to emails, like not writing things a certain way that offend people and stuff
We're
like
gonna
that.
talk about emails. I have some examples to share with you in a little bit.
Oh, unconscious bias, that's what it was.
Unconscious bias,
Yeah,
yeah,
I took it at
super
the bank.
powerful.
Yeah, so a lot of people have these internal things that's biased, you know, not knowing unwilling, but you kind of get a tool so you kind of know how to adjust your behavior.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
This is a little off subject, but your
I love it.
6-year-old granddaughter had heart surgery?
Yeah, I didn't
What's
tell
going
you.
on?
Oh, well, we'll talk about it. I'll call you.
Is she okay?
Oh, yeah.
She's in
Oh, yeah.
recovery. She's doing
She
all
was
right.
born with an extra hole in her heart, but
Did they fix it for her?
it's fixed. And since she's been born for the last 6 years, I've been praying that the Lord heal her heart. So she
You
got a
did?
gold heart now.
Mm.
She goes,
Good.
and even her teachers,
What's her name so I can pray for her too?
the Maya.
Tomorrow, okay.
Yeah, I ain't gonna give you the last name.
That's okay, God knows her last name.
Thank you for that,
Those
David.
too.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that kindness. All right, let's jump into your reports, which I know lots of you, unless you are a C, have already pulled out and looked at. So,
So true.
right?
I already read.
So there are 1,000 things in here. DISC is a typology that lots of different companies create assessments for and create reports for. This company is the one that we chose to work with because of the depth of their reporting. But the depth of their reporting is also a little overwhelming. I have read my report dozens of times, and every time I go back into it, was this here before? I don't remember it, which might say more about me than it does about the report. But there are some sections in here that we're gonna highlight today that I want to point out and that I think are super helpful. We're gonna look at like the general characteristics, the communication, and the value to the organization are the 3 areas of this report that we're gonna look at today. But there are lots of different sections in here. Ideas for coaching, ideas for things that move us into wasting time or wasting energy. It just really a lot of richness. So we will move our way through our report together today. So the first place I want us to look is around page 26 or 27 of your individual report. Not the team report, but the individual report, which is the up and down one. So Fred, other one. That's the team report. You've got the team report. I want your individual report. So it has your name on the front. Around page 26, 27, you should have the bar graph. It says Style Insights graph. And then the next page says Behavioral Continuum.
25.
Oh, got it.
Everybody's pagination is a little bit different because everybody's report is a little bit different. So you might have to go forward or backward a couple of pages.
Page 26.
26 for Fred. I'm using Kim's, don't tell her. Kim Murphy. She's on page 26. So when DISC was, I guess, well, it doesn't matter when. This bar graph is the common visual language of DISC. So we're gonna start here, and you'll notice you have two bar graphs on this page. One says adapted style and one says natural style. I want you to look at the natural style graph. We'll get to the adaptation one in just a minute. But you'll see our 4 factors, right, on your graph. The colors are always the same. D is always red, I is always yellow, S is always green, C is always blue. In the center of the graph at the 50% mark is what people call the energy line. So this is maybe what we might say is average, if there is such a thing in a human. I don't know. I've never met anybody who's average. If we are above the energy line in any column, so this graph has S and C above the energy line. So this person has what we maybe would say a lot of S or a lot of C in their makeup, not so much D and I, right? The numbers at the bottom give us an exact representation, not just the bar. I just used some language that I don't like using. This is actually the graph of my friend Debbie Stair, who some of you might know from MASB. So this is Debbie's graph. Don't tell her I stole it. So Debbie has a lot of C and a lot of S. That's the language I don't like, right? Because when we say Debbie has a lot of something, it also makes it seem like she's lacking something else.
Right.
Right? Debbie isn't lacking anything. So what our company, which is called TTI, what they've done is they've developed a new visual representation of this data, and they now use this continuum. So they take the same data, they turn it on its side, put the energy line in the center still. So this is the next page in your packet. And we'll use the red here, right? Instead of saying, oh, Debbie's low D, she's only a 15 in D. She really should work to get more of that. She's really lacking something. No, Debbie isn't lacking anything. She actually has an 85 on this side of the graph, right? She's super reflective. She is not direct. If you've ever met Debbie, she isn't direct. She can be direct. She can adapt. Those of us who have been on the receiving end of Debbie's directness know that. But she is very reflective when it comes to problems and challenges, right? She is more reserved than she is outgoing. She isn't lacking I, she just has more of something else. Does that make sense? That shift from bar to continuum? I really appreciate this language as we're talking about ourselves and other people, that we're saying, you know, Mackenzie isn't lacking in, I have a kind of a low C. Mackenzie doesn't have a low C, she's just very pioneering. I love to try things. So that's it. I like saying that about myself. right? I don't like saying I'm bad at following rules. I'd rather say, oh, I'm so pioneering. It feels better than a judgment of high and low. So that's why we have these two things. It's the same data, it's just a different way to look at the picture that the data presents. The traditional bar graph is the common visual language of DISC. So if you meet somebody else on the street and we're at a conference or something, lots of people take DISC. This is what everybody else uses who isn't TTI. So you will see these representations with the bar graph pretty regularly. All right. Oh, this is another bar graph. I just want to show you. So this is another colleague. Here's somebody who has a 6 on the bar graph in their steadiness factor. So she is almost fully dynamic. The pace of working with her for someone like me, who is almost the other way on the steadiness side, is really a challenge, right? Because we are so different in how much of a single factor we have. But I would never say, oh, she is totally lacking in this thing, because that doesn't really paint me a picture of what she is or how she behaves. Right? Saying, oh, she isn't steady. Well, what is she? Well, she is dynamic. Okay. Right. That's my soapbox. So let's share what your recipes are. In your packet is a little table tent that has your name and your bar graph on it. So that's
Is that in the first document? Or still this one?
it's clipped in the folder. In your folder, there's a bunch of colored paper
Card, right?
with a card clipped to it. Yes, sir.
Just a clarifying question.
Yes.
So in one of those charts where it has the adapted style versus the natural style,
Yes.
is that kind of your professional setting versus your personal setting? Or
Yes.
is that what
So
it is?
we're gonna come back to that. Can we hold that? Awesome. Okay. Let's share kind of what your recipe is. So as we move through the rest of our conversation, we can have some common understanding. Fred, could we start with you this time?
Sure. The D part of it is above the line to about 78. The I is just a little over 80. The S is about 36, and the blue is 50.
15. Okay. So we might say about Fred, Fred is direct and outgoing. Right? That's where you would fall on this side of the continuum. And then he is also dynamic and pioneering. That's language we could use to describe Fred's graph. So if we were going to use quick language, we would say Fred is a high D and a high I. Okay, make sense? All right. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add here that 40 years of pastoring, you meet all kinds of people.
Yeah, you do.
And one thing I know about church people is they can be really mean because they're not in the right space.
Right.
They come in, try to change your church to fit them. You know, and as a watchman on the wall, you have to protect the sheep.
Sure.
And I can see where I've gone the opposite way of what I think I am because of 10,000 paper cuts over the years.
That is an adaptation, certainly. We're gonna come back to adaptations because that's really important. Okay, thank you. As we share, we'll use that high-low language that Mackenzie doesn't like because it's quick. Okay, so you share your high, if you have like 2 highs or a high and a super low, that you would say, I think this feels right to me, okay? What do you think, Scott? I just realized that I completely jacked up the back side of this chart, so apologies. The front side looks
Oh, well.
great, the back side, disaster. Okay,
D 56, I 55, S 54, and C 48.
so yours, ooh, table, yours all kind of hover right around that midline,
Yeah.
right?
Perfect guy.
Yeah, that's true.
So you are very balanced
Yes,
in
I
all
am.
of these, no
Except
big
compliance.
spite.
Yeah, I thought the
Except
compliance would be along
Except
6.
compliance. Still pretty
I'm
close.
kind of impressed that it's compliant.
Is that
I lied on it a little bit.
That's
No, too
fantastic.
bad.
Alex, how about you, sir?
Okay, so I'm high in D and C and lowest in I and S. My numbers are 69 in D, 22 in I, 42 in S, and 74 in C.
Awesome. So high and D and C. Do you see that in you?
Yeah.
Yeah? Awesome. Just so everybody knows, you do have everybody else's information in your team report. I'll show you where that is. So if you're frantically trying to scribble things down, already done for you.
I haven't done anything frantic in 13 years.
That makes sense for you, sir.
I am
Jen, how about you?
I'm highest in compliance, followed by dominance. Both are above the energy level.
Yeah.
And then followed by steadiness and then influence last,
So
which is mine spot on.
yeah, right? So the people, like I'm thinking about the three of you whose job requires problems and challenges and dealing with those directly. It makes sense that D is a relevant factor for you, right? Makes perfect
And
sense.
I was that person that fully read my report before.
Yep, there's your seat.
I full disclosure.
Thank you. David, how about you, sir?
Well, for D, I've got 69. For I, it's 86. S is 18, and C is 28.
So you have a very high I, very people oriented, yes, and a fair amount of D too. So that D and I together is like power, right? You take your directness and your ability to be with and work with people, and that's like magic. Pretty great. But you have also a very low, or pretty low, S, right? Not a lot of steadiness. So do you find yourself moving quickly, making decisions quickly?
Sure. I thought it was accurate.
Yeah?
In fact, I was kind of surprised how accurate I thought it was of me based on the questions that it asked.
Isn't that the weirdest thing? You put these 4 words in some kind of order and it spits out.
And then they're
Like
spitting
it's been
out for
watching
these,
you.
and I know these people, and I know they're accurate too.
Yeah? Yeah? It's pretty amazing. Thank you. Andrew, how about you, sir?
I'm high in steadiness and compliance, and I'm low in dominance and medium in influence.
Yeah,
Perfect
great.
engineer.
A perfect engineer. A perfect engineer. That high S, do you see that in your life and in your
Yeah.
behavior? Yeah. That like have to reflect, process time, think things through. Is that
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
I see that even with a lot of the people I work with, engineers, we're very introverted people. We're very, lack of a better term, nerdy at times.
Aren't we all?
So,
I'm embracing my nerd. It's my word for the decade. Thank you. Melanie, how about you, ma'am?
So I have a 88 in influence, that's like super high. Compliance is like 61. Steady is 36, and dominance is like 22.
So your people is high. Yes. And I knew that 4 seconds after I met you, right? Would you all say that about Melanie?
yes.
Right?
very
You are people oriented. And even when you were talking about your work in the community, right? All these different things that you're into, of course you are. That's who you are, right? It's how you move in the world. And we're glad you do it. Thank you. Jewel, can we come back to you?
Sure. S and C, mostly S, and the other, D and I are kind of.
That makes me feel good.
Is anyone surprised that there's finance situation happening here, right? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I think it comes with the job.
For sure. And you come to the job, right? You bring all those things to that work.
I want to interrupt here. When I first got on the board, Carol Medell took me to a couple of schools, and I was standing there in the school, and the class broke, and the kids are walking back and forth. And I'm watching the teachers interact with the students as they're walking back and forth. And it was a beautiful thing to see. Alice, how's your sister? Okay, tell your mom I'm gonna be, I mean, they knew everything about all the kids going around, and after it was done, and they went back in the classes, I was just kind of overwhelmed by the teachers. And I said that to Carol, I says, where do we find these people? And she says, they find us.
They find us, yeah.
And that made an impact on me, because you're drawn to that.
Yep.
So.
Yep, thank you for that. Thanks, Jewel. Shannon, can we come to you?
Yes, I found out me and Jewel are twins.
Ah.
We're clones.
Yeah.
My D is 38, my I is 52, my S is 68, and my C is 52.
So you're that SC combination as well. Do you see that ring true in your life and work too? Yeah, great. Thank you. Kim?
So my highest is compliance, surprise, surprise, it's like 81. So, and then my influence is next, that's 66. Steady is 60, and dominance is 17, and that was surprising to me. So, I mean, I'm not necessarily in disagreement because I am very reflective, but I was a little surprised because people would not describe me as that being dominant. So.
Yeah, that is interesting. This is where that have a lot lack language. This is a great example of where that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Because you are a dominant personality, right? But how you approach problems and challenges is with your reflection.
Yes.
So that makes a lot more sense. Like, to those of us who know you, as soon as you say that, you're like, well, yeah, Kim thinks about things. Right?
Yeah. Kim doesn't need to be the first one to say something, but she's gonna say something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's.
It's true, isn't it?
And what was your highest? Your compliance.
Compliance.
Yeah.
Which is funny, because I am a rule follower, but I'm not a rule follower. I like to know the rules. That's the piece. It's not so much as if I always gotta follow them, I just need to know
You
them.
need to know them. Yeah. Thank you.
And I did read mine in advance, like, so.
Well, how about you, Mike?
Oh, well, wouldn't nobody be surprised? I graded a 22 in compliance.
22 in compliance.
I'm the first to say something. I don't follow the rules, but I have a board that appreciate me. And
You are
they shake
pioneering.
your head and they say, mm-mm. And I have somebody that's sitting next to me and do that. So they are very supportive of me because once it come out. My mother always told me, God bless her, so Lil Wanda, one day your mouth gonna get you in trouble. As a kid, that's what she told me. She never corrected me. She just say, one day.
When it's coming.
It's like, I'm tired of you, so this is it, one day. Your mouth gonna, and of course, I rated high in contact and relationships.
Yeah.
And I.
So you're an interesting example where you're pioneering. So the thing that has like the biggest factor in your recipe is something that's low on the bar graph, right? This is another reason I don't like that language. So Luana's pioneering factor makes a big impact on how she moves in the world.
Right.
And is also outgoing, right? So the high I, low C is the combination of force in how you are moving in the world.
Right, that's why I hang out with people that support me and people that's not afraid to say, be quiet, Luana.
Love
Just
that.
Be quiet.
Love that. I'm gonna skip ahead in an interest of time, but I'm actually gonna skip further ahead. Hold, please. Let's talk adapted and natural, because I think there's a lot of power here. So our two photos, our two snapshots of ourselves. Natural, our natural style, is the least changeable. It's who we are in our purest self. I don't know. It's also who we are under stress. Right? When we're under stress, I'm sure we've all had times where it's like the mask comes off. Right? This is our natural style. I flipped forward about 6 slides. Probably.
Okay, I was looking, okay, on the slides.
Page 15, or 14, 15, slide 28 is where I am.
Okay.
Our adapted style is how we respond to our environment. It's most changeable. It's what we use to succeed. It's what we use to survive. I like to think about it this way. It's an analogy that really helped me understand. Have you ever had a photograph, a professional photograph taken where the photographer like posed you? Right? And they're like, okay, stand like this, put your hand here, put your arm here, right? And we're like, okay, smile, and everyone knows that a picture is being taken. Yeah? We just did that this summer with my whole family. It was quite an experience. That is our adapted, right? I know a picture is being taken. It's a posed photograph. But have you also had like a candid photograph taken where somebody's across the room with a camera and they just happen to get you and you're like mid-laugh or something? Right? That's your natural style.
Okay.
It's who you are when nobody's looking, when you don't know the camera is on. They're both photos of you. But one you knew the camera was there and one you didn't. So both photos of us, just different times. Here's why it's important. Adaptation happens for lots of different reasons, but it usually happens because of our environment. Sometimes we choose to do it to be helpful, right? Like Luana said, I'm choosing to sit over here, so I'm not a disruption to my colleagues. I'm choosing to move quickly because I know the rest of my team needs it. So I'm making that adaptation out of goodwill. Other times, adaptations happen because we need to survive, right? There's stress coming, and it's just like, make it through. Or I've been up against bullying congregation people for 40 years, and this is what I know has to change in order for me to survive, right? The thing that does is it's a stressor. Every time we adapt, it costs us something. It might just cost us energy, but it's still a cost, right? So the thing that we want to think about is, well, number one, why are we adapting? Am I adapting because of a power struggle, or am I adapting out of goodwill, right? Am I adapting because I have someone trying to hurt me, harm me in my life, and I'm trying to survive? Or am I adapting because I know I can thrive if I do this thing? When I was teaching, I taught English. There's a lot of paperwork, like you have to grade a lot, read a lot. And left to my own devices, I do not have great follow through. I would collect papers and read them and forget to give them back. That's not helpful. and nobody's learning anything. This was before Google Classroom, that's how old I am, right? I just would forget, it wouldn't matter to me anymore. I knew what I needed to know. I'm like losing exams and all sorts of stuff. That was an adaptation that I needed to make to be a good teacher. But it was still costly to me. It cost me a lot of energy. I had to set up structures to help me and all that kind of stuff, right? Anytime energy is going out because of an adaptation, it's important for us to think, what am I doing to bring calibration back to my life? Let me give you another example. A big part of my job is MASB's annual conference, and that is my baby. And when annual conference hits, I work from 6 a.m. until midnight for 5 days. And I'm with people that whole time, and I love it. But then when I get done with that, the pace of it is costly to my high S soul. Okay? Like, I have to sit and be quiet. I don't want to move. I have the best time at conference. Such a good time, because I also have a lot of eye in my makeup. So that, like, all the peopling, oh, it pulls me through. I get energized by that. But my high S soul just needs to be still when I'm done. So I know that I need to recalibrate myself when I am adapting. So I would encourage you, especially those of you who have real high or real low moments in your makeup, I would encourage you to think about, okay, if I have a low I and peopling is my job, or I know I'm going to this thing, I have this event, or I have this project that's going to require me to be outgoing. How are you going to bring yourself back into calibration when you are finished with that event or that project? Or how are you, better yet, how are you going to prepare yourself for it? Okay? If I am a high C and I know I'm headed into, I don't know, chaos land, whatever that happens to be. Chaos is hard for someone who's a high C, right? They don't function well in that. So how are you preparing before it even happens? Okay? It's important that we kind of think about caring for ourselves as well as one another. Speaking of that, have you ever heard of the golden rule? What's the golden rule? Do unto others as you would have done unto you. I want to challenge us. Now that's scripture, and I don't like, changing scripture. So I appreciate that idea. But I want us to think of DISC with the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would like to have it done unto them. Treat others the way that they want to be treated. So if I know that Kimberly, when she comes in after a long Monday and is coming to the board meeting, and maybe she just needs a minute, right? Or if I know maybe she doesn't, maybe she needs interaction, right? I know that about her, and I can treat her that way, how she wants to be treated, not just how I like to be treated. That's one of the, like you said at the beginning of your time, how is this going to impact how we work together? This is how. Let's get real practical. In your packet, in your folder, I gave you a bunch of colored paper. Would you pull out the purple paper, please? Purple paper, please. I'm impressed with myself that I can do that.
You got that one.
It's like a vocal exercise. And then write your name at the top of your purple paper, please. Once you've got that, then in your personal report, flip back to about page 9. We have a checklist for communicating. Should be on about page 9. So this is individual for each of us, okay? Some parts of our report, everybody has the same thing. Some parts is individual for everybody, right? Excuse me. This is one of those individual pieces. I would like for you to scan through this list and pull out 2 of those items from this list that you would say, yes, please communicate with me this way. This resonates with me. And write those 2 items on your purple paper. When you have finished, ways that you please communicate with me. This is what I like. Would you please pull out your orange piece of paper, put your name on the top, and then turn to the next page in your report, and you will see ways I do not like to be communicated with, ways not to communicate. Okay, and skim through that list and find the 2, 1, 2. You will not be in trouble for writing 3 for all of you C's. Okay, what stands out to you there? As you are wrapping those up, what we're going to do now is go around the room, and I'm going to ask everyone to share one thing from their yes list and one thing from their no list. Okay? And it is totally fine if you're still finishing up. Melody, might we start with you and work our way around?
Yes, so the purple one is provide a warm, friendly environment and support your communication with correct practices.
great. Thank you. Jewel?
Use a scheduled timetable when implementing new action.
So that's from your yes list?
Yes.
You like a timetable?
Yes.
Love it. And what was one thing from your no list?
Make promises you cannot deliver.
Thank you. Shannon, how about you, sir?
Keep conversation at a discussion level.
What made that ring true to you? Keep conversation at a discussion level.
I never feel there's a need to really raise my voice.
So that's like a volume and intensity. Awesome, thank you. And how about from your no list?
I had a few. Talk to him when you're extremely angry.
Thank you. Yes. I'm like, yes. At this point, I'm always like, I need therapy. I need to talk through some things about myself. Those of us who have a lot of S in our makeup, which if you remember back to the video, was almost 70% of the population has a lot of S in their makeup. We respond to emotion deeply. Right? So if you're coming in hot from another interaction, and you bump into me or to Shannon or anyone else who has a lot of S, we are gonna feel the repercussion of that. Right? That's important to know as you're working together as a team, right? Thank you for sharing that. Kimberly, what's your yes?
Yes is be sincere, use a tone of voice that shows sincerity.
Thank you. And what's your no?
Use gimmicks or, no, I'm not gonna do that, I'm gonna do my first one.
Okay.
Talk in a loud voice or use confrontation.
There it is. Yep. Thank you. Luana, what was one of your S's, or your yeses?
One of my yeses is, provide yes or no answers, not maybe.
Maybes are confusing. Some of us love a maybe, right? When it's like, ooh, let's talk about that. Others of us, not so much. Okay, and how about your no?
Don't leave decisions hanging in the air.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. Mr. Weaver, how about you, sir?
On the yes side, leave time for relating and socializing. And on the no side, don't talk down to me.
Thank you. That's that high I, right? Leave time for the relationship. Thank you. How about you, Scott?
Be clear, specific, brief, and to the point for my yes. And then my no, don't ramble or waste time.
Awesome. So let's just pause because we've got a lovely side by side here. So Fred is saying, please leave time for interaction. Scott is saying, don't waste time. Right?
That's
so
okay.
Here's just like when we said, what is this actually going to look like in life? This is a perfect example because what an adaptation you can make is not seeing relationship or time for relating as a time waster, right? And something that someone who's a high I can make is to be like, Scott needs things clear, defined, to the point, right? When I come to have a conversation, I'm gonna be ready for it. I'm not gonna like, get there eventually. Those are adaptations that these two styles can make for one another.
Well, I've already had, I've had the gym, I just had to adapt to Fred.
Yeah, yeah.
Even when I meet with him at the property, I have to adapt to him. It's just me having to be uncomfortable in that space, but I just do it because I know I have to do it.
Yeah, yep.
And I actually see Scott doing that a lot because he truly, right, more just business where he's like, okay, how are you?
Yeah.
What's like in
Yeah,
being,
it's
like
hard.
in truly being serious.
Yeah.
Like it's, yeah.
Yes. And everybody who has that like a lot of D and a lot of C, everybody is making that adaptation, right? Like that is one that you all have to make a lot for the rest of us. But
That's why I'm laughing, Scott. I'm not laughing
I
at
know.
you. I'm there with you.
Yeah. Same.
But those of us who aren't that way, we can also adapt and I can come ready to my meeting, right? Like I might need you to ask me about my kids, but I'm also gonna be ready with what you need from me, right? So we can both do that for each other.
So I can see that in Dr. Weaver, what, he's early for the meetings, and, he's ready when you come in, he's polite, and he start talking to you and everything, and he wants to be part of the subcommittees, so I can see that leave time for socialization. I can see that.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense when you see the recipe, right? Thank you. Alex, how about you, sir?
So I had approach them in a straightforward, direct way, stick to business, and then for communication styles I don't care for, use gimmicks or clever, quick manipulation. And I just take it as being straightforward is you're valuing my time, I'm valuing your time, we'll knock out whatever it is that we need to knock out, then we can get to the fun and talk about other stuff.
So work first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the manipulation piece, if I feel as if someone isn't, it's more about character. If I feel like you're trying to trick me or you're trying to talk in a way that is misleading or dishonest, then I start questioning everything that you have to say.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. John, how about you?
My C is very shining through right now. So please be prepared with facts and figures. And please do not be vague about what's expected of either of us, and don't fail to follow through.
That's your C.
That's my,
Yep. Yep. And that's also like that don't fail to follow through is a lot of D too, right?
Mhm.
Like you said you're gonna do it, do the thing.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
My yes was provide testimonials, supporting testimonials from people that I recognize as important. And the nose is talking down to me.
Yes, that's important. So you have a lot of I in your makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing, you know how I said those of us who have a lot of I, we move through the world with people? So can you say again what your yes to communicate with me?
Testimonials, and the way I recognize it is okay, I got an idea, and this one and that one and that one think it's a good idea,
Yeah.
you know.
So even in your communication, you are thinking about people, right? Bring people into our communication. Other people. It's classic I. Love it. I love when we see that.
I was gonna say, and I see that in Dave, like when Dave is sharing discussion points, you always tell a story. I don't know if you've ever noticed that, but when you speak at the board meetings, it is always a story, which is like a testimony.
How everyone knows.
I'm the same way. I think in stories.
That's that reflection on me.
There it is. There it is. Andrew, bring us home, please.
Provide tangible and practical evidence.
Tangible and practical evidence. Thank you. And how about your no?
Rush in the decision-making process.
There's that S, right? We require reflection. We require time.
How'd you ever become an engineer? Born one.
I was born one, yeah. I mentioned some emails. In your packet are some examples, but just take a look at this example email with me and see what style you think is evident here. So this is from team leader Stan. He says, "Hi everyone, I hope your week is going well. What do you think about getting together in a team huddle this afternoon or tomorrow morning so that we can share how things are coming along with the appreciation luncheon? Be sure to bring your notes so that we're all on the same page. Include any challenges you have so we can brainstorm solutions as a group."
Thank you, Jen.
You think this is I? What do you see what do you see in here that's I?
Because it's first asking how you're going, well, like real social life, and
It's-
then including everybody.
Including everybody, it's very people forward. Yeah, definitely. Anything else stand out to you?
It's also very direct what they want you to bring.
So they're asking you to bring something and asking you to think about something in advance, right? Does that sound?
Reflect.
That sounds like an S,
Yes.
right? We want you to think about it in advance before. We're not just gonna come and brainstorm. We're gonna think about it first and then come. Yeah. Compared to, how about this one? Give me an update on the appreciation luncheon by 5 p.m. today.
That's a defiant.
That's a lot of D,
Yes, a
right?
lot
This
of
is what I need. We're in, we're out, we're direct. Okay, so same message, different package. So those kind of adaptations can happen both in person and via email. I had a person on our team for a long time who was an incredibly high I. And my director at the time, our boss, was an incredibly high D and a very low S. So she moved real fast and was very direct. And she would type out her emails to my teammate Mary, and then she would go back to the top of the email and do things like write a greeting and put in a question about, like, how was your weekend? How are the kids? Because it was not in her to do that of her own mind. But she knew that's what Mary needed to be able to receive what came next, which was basically this, right? So it was an adaptation that she made. And Mary made adaptations by when she got an email that just said this, taking a breath. You're like, oh, she's just busy right now, right? So we do that for each other when we work on it.
If I read that email, it said give you an update, and now being so aggressive like that, I give you an update when I give it to you.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
You mentioned before the analogy of posing.
Yes,
and
with
not
the camera.
posing. I can't speak for everyone, but at the same time, I'm gonna throw it out there like that.
Yeah.
I think we've all taken a picture of each other, of what we think. How do we get out of that?
Yeah. That is an excellent question. And that really is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we all approach humans in the world and we take a quick snapshot and we make a quick judgment. That's what is so powerful about this kind of learning that you all are doing together. Because it's kind of challenging you to elbow out those initial ideas and instead take a look and go, oh, maybe Mackenzie isn't being rude, she's just direct, right? That's her D factor. And all of a sudden I think about that differently, right? Maybe Mackenzie isn't just talking to be annoying, she just needs to talk to process what's happening around her, right? Maybe Mackenzie isn't anal, she's just very detail oriented. We did an exercise with my staff. We did the same training with my staff last spring. And I sent them off into different groups and said, tell us, all of you C's, tell us what we need to know about C's. All of you I's, tell us what we need to know about I's. And everybody broke up. And I wish I would have had a video camera because it was perfection.
Yes.
The S's, majority of the room, they're all huddled in the corner and they're like, what do you think? I don't know, what do you think? They wrote like only 3 things on their paper. They couldn't, everybody needed more time. There's one D in the room. She wrote 1 sentence and was finished, right? All the I's, they're like buzzing. Their paper is full of color. They used 100 different markers, drew emojis. And my teammate Jay Bennett, who I know some of you know, Jay is the most I human being I've ever met. He can't even stay in the group. He's got to go see, he's walking around the room. What are other people doing, right? What's happened? The group of C's, their thing was an outline. It was alphabetized and color-coded and perfectly indented. I was just like, man, we are all so different, right? And when we know these things about one another, it creates opportunities for us to give grace and understanding that we didn't have when we first approached each other. There are those words. Does that help? Yeah. Thank you for raising that, Fred. I think that's really important. In my last couple of minutes, I want to draw your attention to your team report. One of the things that Kimberly raised at the beginning of our time together was, what are we going to do about this? And this is a great tool for you to continue the conversation. So what we're doing this morning in a couple of hours is just the start, if this is something that you want to fold in to the fabric of who you are as a team. So here's your team report. Let me walk you through it a little bit. I think I have a big picture. So on page 7 of your report is this disc overview wheel situation. So this is a quick snapshot of your team. Okay, let's just sort of orientate ourselves a little bit. So you'll see DISC, we've been working with those. As we think about this wheel, so they've got 2 orientations here, task-oriented and people-oriented, and then faster-paced and slower-paced. Right? So D and I tend to be fast, C and S tend to be slow, D and C tend to be very task-oriented, S and I tend to be very people-oriented. Right? Those are how those factors sort of interplay. So when we look at your team, you've got 33% of you, or 4 of you, and Kim Markey is also included in this.
Can you tell, like, is it okay to say who is who in that area?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
not? Like,
we
I think
could-
that'll
yep.
just help as a whole team to say who is where.
We will look at that in
Okay.
just a minute, yep. So you've got a lot of your group that's on the slower side, right? This S and C, you've got 7 of you that are on that slower side compared to the 5 of you on the faster paced side. Right? And a lot of you are people oriented. 8 of you are people oriented compared to the 4 who are not. This is not surprising that people who care about children and their communities are volunteering their time or giving their career. This is, of course, we're not surprised here. This is just a little snapshot. Then we move forward in your report. This is page 9, and starting here, if you wanted to do some good conversation, some deep work, this is how, as deep as you wanted to take it. This is what I would suggest. So starting on about page 9, or actually it is page 9, each kind of category gets broken out, and I put some questions here that are in your PowerPoint presentation that would be good discussion starters. So what this is going to do is it's going to tell us who our supporters are. Those are people who have a lot of S. Okay? It's going to give us strengths and weaknesses. It's going to tell us what percentage of the population overall in the world is this. Here's my favorite part. Words that work and words that don't. Those of us who have a lot of S love words like consistent and secure. Those speak to our heart. We do not like words like urgent and confrontation. So as you are working with the 4 people on your team who are this in their makeup, you can know, like, I can stress to them that this is normal. This might be an anomaly happening, but it's normal, it's expected, everything's fine. Okay? Those kinds of things are so helpful to our S hearts. And if you're like, but how am I supposed to know who that is? Well, on the very next page, on page 10, it shows the graphs of all of you who are that supporter S category. So you can see, so Andrew, Kim, Markey, Shannon, and Jewel are all there. Does that make sense? So then what I would suggest is you could go through and say, okay, you 4, tell us about how you see your strengths and weaknesses on this team. Right? Or you could say, what does this value look like for you? This value to the organization, so important. This just makes my heart soar. Right? People who are this, who are supporters, they negotiate conflicts, they're dependable, they're good listeners. These are values to the team that are really significant things. Okay? So these kinds of discussion questions are really helpful if you wanted to dig into this work. The report moves on from supporter, and then it goes to persuader, and then it goes to influencer, and then it goes to driver. I forget all the names. but it works through your whole team. I'm gonna skip forward. Jen asked about where you all fall on that wheel. I skipped forward to a couple of slides, so I'm on slide 43. This is that wheel sort of cut differently, but we still have fast and slow, task, and people. And this is where all of you are on that wheel. So this is page 28 in your report. Everybody has a number that's alphabetical by last name. And you can see, like, here's Fred, he's number 12. And they got that D and I, so that puts him in that persuader role. Okay, I can see where he is. One of the things, when you look at this wheel, do you have any observations about it?
When I look at the wheel, I'm by myself.
Yeah. So Luana's number 1. So you're down here in relator, because you sit with both the I and the S. You and I are the same that way. That's my rule too.
Welcome to my world.
Right, yeah. You've got kind of a cluster here with supporter. You've got a couple implementers. You'll have a pretty nice distribution. Otherwise though, yes ma'am.
So what do the inner numbers mean? So,
Like the segments of the wheel.
yes,
In full transparency, this is all I know about them.
okay.
The closer they are to the center, the more bars on the bar graph you have over the energy line. That's all that I know. When I went through my training, they answered that question, and I actually have gone back and watched the video again, and I'm still like, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
So it means something to the data nerds, but I didn't understand it.
I thought it was interesting too that there's nobody here in that conductor section.
Yeah.
Or coordinator.
I don't remember, does it adapt? If the next wheel, so that this is page 28. I think it's the very next wheel. Or page, yeah, group wheel adapted. Fred moves from conductor to implementer. So maybe it's not Fred. Number 9, Alex moves to implementer. So on page 29 is the same wheel, but with your adapted pictures. Okay, so you have a couple of folks that stay right, that don't adapt much at all, and you have a couple of folks that adapt a lot, and a couple of folks that adapt a little bit here and there. Okay, so I don't think you have anybody who shifts from like here to here. I don't think you have anybody that makes giant shifts, but you might shift from like segment to the segment next to it. Yes, sir.
How can we change Mr. Toko?
What do you want it to be?
All ladies.
All right, so that's kind of how you could use that, and I went way over my time. Apologies to you.
It's okay, we took up some of your time earlier.
This was my baby when she was 6, and now she's 14. Oh man, kills me.
Thank you.
Let me just say this as I wrap up. I mentioned I love talking about this stuff. If we just scratched the surface. I put my business card in your folder. If this is ringing true to you, or you have more questions, or you want to talk more about it, I would be happy to schedule a time to hop on the phone or do a Zoom call or whatever you would like, so that we could answer questions or get more information for you. Yes, ma'am.
If the team was interested, what would you see as our next steps as a team?
So 2 possibilities flip into my head right away. There's a dozen more.
Yeah.
Working through that team report and debriefing around those different roles. What are your strengths, weaknesses, value to the organization? How do you see that coming out in yourself and in others. I think that's really powerful work. The other bit that we didn't talk at all about today is the motivators, the driving forces assessment that you took, which really is kind of a hand in glove with the DISC. The DISC is about how we move in the world. Driving forces is about why we do those things. And if you thought reading your DISC report was like, who has been watching me? Driving forces is more. Because it's like all internal stuff. Like, how did you know that's why I do that? It's really powerful stuff. So that would be another option. But if you wanted to just stick with DISC, I would start moving into that team report. And I would be happy to come and facilitate that, but I wanted to give you tools so that you could do it yourselves too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your time
Thank you.
and your attention and the work that you do for your community and for your kids. It is important, and we are grateful for it all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Appreciate you.
Oh, the purple and the orange papers, if you will leave those with me, I will type all that up and send it back to you.
What, say,
The
repeat that?
purple and the orange papers that you wrote on for the communication, what you prefer and what you don't prefer. I will transcribe all that and get it back to you.
I'm gonna make a wheel of everybody's, or just ours?
Everybody.
Oh.
So you'll be able to
Okay,
see
I
like what did Melody say, what did
Okay,
Shannon say.
okay.
Ms. Claire, are you prepared to talk about state aid report and things like that today?
Yeah, I'll take questions.
Okay.
You don't want me to do a full presentation?
What does the board think? Do you want a full
I'm doing it Monday
presentation?
night. And I did it.
Okay, but is this something that we have to vote on? Is this something that we have to have two reads? If it's something that we have to have two reads and you expecting to vote on it on Monday, yes, not.
This is just what she would do, what she
Okay.
normally did in the, finance committee.
Right, but you know, sometimes we have to
Right,
have
no,
two reads.
that last part, when she does the investment report,
Okay.
or the check register and the state aid report. I don't have any questions, but I don't know if anybody else does.
Does anybody?
That is not a vote. Well, the
Yes.
investment report and stuff is in the consent agenda.
We'll do it any way you want. Luana, anything? Anybody else?
I read the report, I have no questions.
Okay. Then citizens' comments, no citizens here. Recommendations, Board of Education, Ms. Hines.
I just like to thank everyone who came to this meeting. It was amazing. We learned a lot about each other. It's really helpful when we include the new board members, so we can kind of get to know them and how they operate. And again, it's really helpful to help us operate better as a board. So, thank you.
Mr. Cox.
I'd just like to say, I think this was very valuable time, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to say that having Pulte build homes in the community is a positive thing all by itself.
Mr. Ambrose.
I'm grateful to be here. I'm looking forward over the next 2 years getting to know all of you and working with you to move this district forward.
Okay. Mr. Rashawn.
I'm excited to be here, look forward to working with you guys. I look forward to having more of these opportunities together in closed environments to get to know you guys.
All right, Ms. May.
Just want to say thank you to Mackenzie and to Jen for organizing this. I think this was very informative, and it will help us to move forward as a board, so thank you for that. Thank you for adding some time onto the agenda, Dr. Weaver and Mrs. Curry, to just kind of go over the finance items, so thank you guys for that, and I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Okay, Ms. Abney Mitchell.
Well, thank you guys, for everybody for coming out on this Saturday morning. I really love reading this report because it's something that people have been telling me, Luana, because I have a speech problem. I have a speech So, people would say, if you write it down, when you write it down, Luana, you speak better instead of just saying it. So that was in my report also, to write stuff down and everything. So I really appreciate this. I have had this kind of test in another job before. It was color, so I was an orange person. So, you know, it's just like the orange person, it puts me right here in this also a people person. So, but thank you everybody for coming out on a Saturday morning, and I appreciate the training. I appreciate having the new board members here, newly elected board members, because I didn't start until after I was, took the oath of office publicly at the meeting. So I'm glad you guys had the opportunity to come, and I hope that we can put it in our policy, board policy, that you guys can start right at January 1. So I appreciate that, and I thank you, and Ms. Jewel, we appreciate you. I appreciate your smile. I appreciate looking down there at you. You always give me a nice smile, and you always give me a very nice compliment. Those things like that keeps me going. And so, and I just encourage my fellow board members to that we can work together next year. And you know, I encourage you guys to vote Kimberly May for board president at our meeting on Monday. That's all I have.
Okay,
What you gonna say?
yes, Ms.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can I ask a question now?
Yes.
Okay. So we're done. We're not gonna debrief as a board or just talk about any feedback and what we just did with the disc? Are we just, cause this is it, right?
Yeah.
We're getting ready to go into adjournment?
I think we should, yes.
Oh, okay. So I mean, I would like that. I don't know how other board members
Yeah.
feel, but I feel like we just did a
We're
couple of
here.
hours worth of work, and I would love to just kinda
This is
unpack. This is the reflective side of me. So,
And I think like next steps too. Like
yes,
then what?
yeah, okay.
You mean, like right now?
Are we supposed to do it before we end the meeting? Right?
Sure,
Or does
just-
it matter? I don't
sure.
know. That's why I'm asking. I don't
Yeah,
know
just
the
have-
protocol or
let's talk
process, but I
about
just wanted to make sure we didn't just
Okay.
adjourn and walk out the room and leave the great learning just in the space. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you. And I didn't know if
Mackenzie,
you-
though, if you are welcome to stay, we also don't want you to feel like if you have somewhere you need to be, we don't wanna hold you up
Kimberly
either.
May, board president.
I'm fine, I would love to, if you're gonna do that
Yeah.
now, I would love to listen.
Great.
What time is it, Scott?
11:29.
We
Okay.
have a whole hour.
I would like to say that all of us have gone through an incredibly tough year. Probably the toughest year that I have seen as a board member. It's been high stress. The union has made themselves known. But I'm looking forward to a more relaxed time. And I think we're going to go into that. That's really all I have to say. But before we move to adjournment, I'll just open the floor for anyone that wants to start conversation.
I thought it was funny when Fred, I don't remember what Fred said, but he was talking about dealing with congregations over all the years and everything. And I was thinking about, are we like this because of the environment that we find ourselves in, or are we in our environment because we're like this? And I'd rather think it's the second. I've never worked for anybody else. I mean, I've worked for companies, but never with people telling me what to do, because I've always been in a commissioned position. So if you're effective in your role, you continue to work and make money and be able to support yourself. Mel, you've been there, I know. And if you're not, it takes care of itself naturally. No one has to fire you, you know. And so in terms of, grabbing the tools and running, you did that or you starved. You didn't have someone tell you what to do. I want you to review everything in chapter 5. That's not, you have to take the bull by the horns. You have to be decisive. You have to charge. And I was thinking about the position that I found myself in, 6 years ago. it is this school district is in much better shape right now. Okay, we're rolling in dough right now. And we weren't then. And we didn't have a superintendent and everything, and there wasn't a bunch of people standing up wanting to help. You know, even board members, it was just a real negative time. And I know that I took some personal criticism for, you know, fighting in a particular direction, but I had, in my mind, I had taken these broken pieces and tried to put them together and create some continuity, a foundation, something we could build on. This always starting over again stuff is just so expensive, because the children that are in school right now, they're gonna be out in 3 or 4 years, so any of our big ideas doesn't mean anything for them. We've already missed the boat for them. And I just want everybody to know this. I don't have any negative feelings about last year. I can take a punch, all right? I'm okay. I'm not hurt. What I care about is the same thing I've always cared about, which is our community. I know that if the school district isn't solid and well thought of, if people don't think that we offer resources for their families, they're not going to want to move here. And if they don't move here, all the kids that are here now aren't going to have, it'll all fall apart. And that is honestly my only concern. Some people have said, a friend of mine called and says, boy, I bet you hate Tanya Karpinski. No, I don't. I'll tell you how I feel about Tanya Karpinski is I want her in my foxhole. We're not on opposite sides. I know she might think that. Some people might think I think that. We're on the same side in different roles.
Absolutely.
And we both want our teachers to be the happiest. We want everybody to want to work here. But I want people to call me and say, please, I really want to work there. Can you call some? That's what I want. I haven't had that in years. That is all I'm looking for. And going forward, we have to come up with, you know, a plan. And one of the things I heard you say, Kimberly, and boy, as soon as I heard you say it, I was keyed right in on it, and it's student performance. So if we've answered the employee relationship question, thank you, Dr. O'Feely and the team here. Now that's the next thing to concentrate on, and that needs to be our focus, because those kids deserve it. And those kids have every reason to get high scores as any other kid. You can't tell me that it's the kids. It's the same kids that were here 40 years ago when we were breaking all kinds of records. It's the kids are the same. And so I'm excited about that. I don't have misgivings. I don't have bad feelings, and I'm not enemies with anybody. I want to be positive, work together for the school district. And I say again, we got money.
Someone else.
I'd like to say something really quick. I'm really excited about us working together. Like, you know, we're starting fresh for the new year. We all care about the kids and working together. That's most important, because a lot of times, sometimes the community can be, like the other day. So I went over to the award ceremony they had at Wayne Memorial, and they were on Facebook, oh, the kids, they can't read, it's so terrible. But the principal shared an article that they had on Channel 4 about one of the elementary schools about the reading. So then, you know, they're always trying to like pit us against each other a lot of times, the community. So we have to make sure with this new, but we stay strong and together, because I do notice that. And a lot of times I don't really say a lot, because once you put something out, but at least we just have some stuff to back it up, like, hey, well, we have this on Channel 4, so the kids are doing this at Edison Elementary, despite what you're saying out there. And people are so negative. And a lot of times, like, if there's such a problem, what are you doing to help? Because they don't want to help. But I thought that was interesting. But that's what I want to do as a board, like really heal and just be brand new and just, like I said, be strong, because it's going to be a lot of divisiveness coming forward, you know, when the community, regardless, you know, political stuff, and we just have to be really strong as a board.
Well, I just want to say I want to agree with Melody, especially I want to agree with David, what he said. But we do have to be strong. We have to be unified. When we sitting up there and we have the community out there, the best way that we can serve them is that we can be unified and speaking the same language, and anything that we have against one another, we should be able to talk about it. You know, I don't wanna quote the Bible, but it does tell you if a man offend you, you go to that man, and if that don't work, you go to that man with somebody else. And then after that, you just don't go back no more. But, we have to be unified. And last year, it was a experience, but this training right here, it puts things in perspective for me. Because we all come here with our own traditions. We all come here, we all was raised in different houses. We all believe in different things. We all have different education levels. We all have different comprehension levels, and we all have different ways that we like to learn, or different ways. I love people, but what I love more than people is my space. You know, I love my NC. And one of the reasons I do, cause I'm a smoker and I don't wanna offend nobody. You know, I said that usually I sit away from people because you don't have to be offended by my cigarette smoke. That's my choice in life. But we just need to work together, and it don't need to be, we need to have more than one board member on subcommittees. We don't need to have the same committee, person on committees. If our schedule allow us to do it, then our schedule allow us to do it. And if our schedule allow us to be on, and I just gonna go back to what I said, but if our schedule allow us to be on 3 or 4 board subcommittees, it's okay, but still allow somebody else to be part of it too. Like our policy committee, I've been asked it, and I'm gonna bring it up at board meeting on Monday, trying to make it also a workshop. Because I believe all of our subcommittees, especially the student achievement, need to be part of a workshop. One of the things that, the reason I wanted to run as a board member, is to get the community involved, get our parents involved. Why not have committees and our parents in our community or our teachers have an opportunity to be on those committees? You know, we are serving them. We not in school no more, and David, I do have to say one thing, those are not the same kids that was not even 4 years ago. They had COVID, but these electronics, these video games, these even TikToks has really destroyed our kids. Our kids don't go to bed at night. My grandson, who's a junior at John Glenn, he's still up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but he had to be at the bus stop at 6:20. So he's on the bus sleep. I'm sure in his class, when he get back to my house at 2:20, the first thing he go to is sleep before his mother come pick him up. And I'm a person that struggle with sleep. I stay up until 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, but I know I can't get nothing done the next day. Even when I wake up at 10, I still don't have the energy or whatever, or the desire to do nothing, so it's pushed away to the next day. Then the next night I repeat. But this is what's going on with our kids, because our bodies was not made to be 24 hours, and the parents send them in the room, and they know they have those electronics. I would like to have some kind of parent program. You know, are we taping? Never tape me. when I talk, turn the video,
There's nothing wrong with what you're saying.
But
we're all gonna have to talk about
I just
that.
want to somehow, how can we get to the parents? The parents is also consumed. Just imagine, well, y'all do it. Just imagine going to work at work. People can call you anytime they want to. Yeah. You spend your 8-hour shift probably interacting on your personal phone 3.5 hours.
I was gonna say,
you spend more time than I do.
Thing.
Right, you spend more time interacting on your personal phone than I spent on the cigarette break. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is now.
And I think you make a point too, a lot of our teaching staff now, right? They grew up with technology. They grew up in the same situations or examples that you just shared. So yes, it's about the students, but it's also about our staff, right, and our employees.
Our
because
society, our culture.
Right, we need to adjust as well for them, right? Not make them fit into what we think they should do.
Absolutely.
So I think it's even a bigger picture, and I, just as we all have conversations, and I think of our even learning today, I think the more we can share examples about ourselves, right? Like even how you shared how you're a night owl. I'm just gonna use that for a moment, like in those cases. I think the more we can learn about each other, right, makes us more human, and then more relatable when we are at board meetings, when we are having, different committee meetings and so forth, so that when it's not just Jen's coming out of the gate with her opinion, it's truly, this is what I know about Jen and how she works, and it's not that she just wants to disagree with me all the time, it's just a different perspective, and I think we gotta get a lot more of that human side in with each other and truly getting to know each other. Because once you have that relationship, it just, if we don't build relationships with one another, we're not gonna move. I don't know how else to say that.
And
It's like Shannon said, the more we do this kind of thing, the more that happens. And if we're just out there, at meetings, we're never gonna, we're gonna know what each other looks like, but that's it.
And I agree 100% because I go back to even when Luana was saying in Melody about being unified and understanding what unified means. So it doesn't mean that every time we come to a meeting, we're all nodding our head yes, that we're in agreement. It means we can have civil discourse. We can bring our multiple perspectives to the table. We share, in this space, the careers that we have, the experiences that we have. So we bring all of that to the table, and we have to respect that in having those conversations. To me, the uniformity comes down once we vote. Whatever that vote is, then we all champion what that decision is, right? There's no longer a conversation around, well, my perspective. I thought it should have gone this way. Nope, this is the vote, this is what we agreed to, this is how we move as one. These workshops, I love, Jen, you know this, we had this conversation, having that human perspective, that human side of everyone, knowing how people work, right? Because then you don't get offended, right? And I'm gonna use myself as an example, right? I ask 100 questions. I said that from the start, but now you all got to see it in writing, the scientific side of it, right? That really is who I am. I don't ask questions because I'm picking on people. I'm really trying to understand. I'm really reflective. My mind is constantly going. So where Luana says she doesn't sleep, like when I'm asleep, I'm still thinking. So I wake up like, oh, I need to do X, Y, and Z. That's just is how I work. I apologize if it's offensive to people, but that is just truly who I am as a person, right? So I feel like the more we do this and the more we're able to take the time to have conversations about those things that we need to vote on, those things that are important, and I realize we're all busy, but to me, you go slow to go fast. Like a lot of times you make decisions in haste, and then you come back later to figure out, oh my God, we missed this. Well, if we would have just slowed down, if we would have slowed down and took the time to hear from everyone, maybe there's something that we would not have missed, right? So those are just the pieces that I think about to help move us forward. You all know I've been championing student achievement. I have some personal opinions on it. I have some professional opinions on it. But I'll just end it with saying that I believe every student that shows up every day in class should not be failing. Like that's just, if they're here, they should not be failing. And that's my big statement on that. There's a lot of pieces under that. And again, I would love to go deeper into this and to have conversations and to really be able to say when we have some discussions that we need to have, recognizing the strengths of our board, right? And recognizing some of the holes in our board and how do we fill those holes to be able to make the best decision for the community.
And I think too, when we learn, we get better, right? Absolutely. So I think even as we move forward and we had different committees, we use this information, right, as part of that committee. So like meaning that if we're all C's, we wanna be very conscious. We probably don't wanna put 4 C's on a committee, right? We wanna be able to balance those. Absolutely. So I would ask that, and that kind of continues this learning, right? It's not just I'm done with this today and I'm gonna put it over here. we really need to figure out then what does this look like next? I think it would be a good idea to have Mackenzie come back and do a deeper dive. I think that as we're setting up our committees, that, okay, maybe I'm gonna have Jen who's a C, we know she's a C right away and she's sitting on these, so we need to make sure, right, these other, traits are represented on that committee too, so it's balanced. Just another idea of how you can implement that through. And I would encourage you too to read through everybody's description, right? Because there's gonna even be things that was lifted today, but you're gonna have more information in here that we can learn about each other.
Right.
Is this something that exists outside of the education arena?
Yes.
It's a prevalent
Yes.
psychological.
Yeah,
It's
like
pretty good.
True Colors or any of those typologies. Luana mentioned True Colors, that's why it's springing to my brain. But yes, it is a common tool.
I see this as like 1995 edition date. Is that the beginning of this, or?
Not of DISC. DISC actually started in the 20s or
Okay.
1930s.
All right.
But you would like the colors, cause after we did the colors, instead of saying you a S person, you a C person, we like you a green person, you a orange person.
Yeah, we need a badge.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah. She's an orange person, of course she finna say
So
something,
we
you
did
know.
that in our office, everybody, in our CIA office has it somewhere, so when you walk in, you get a reminder of like, oh, Jen's gold green.
We have that in our MASB office.
Yeah.
So when you walk in my office, you see my desk
Yeah.
chart on the wall.
Yeah, so
Oh,
that's
wow.
even, it's not like, even sometimes even just putting, on
I was
the
gonna say
nameplates
that
for the
is
board
so.
meeting, you know, even if, just an idea, you could put like, you know, for mine, I would have a blue and a red dot. I mean, it's just one of those where you see it, so it sounds, but like as I'm, you know, talking to Jewel or I'm talking to Shannon, I'm just more aware, right? It's how I'm gonna adapt. when
But I
we're
saw
doing
Jen's
things.
card, when things get tough, the following the rules thing gets lower.
But the compliance goes down, the dominance goes up.
So when you're late, you'll
And I can see
speed.
that in my whole, like, big situations in life, like, okay, what do we need to do? So-
Very interesting.
So I guess, I don't know if this, can I ask what we as a team see as next steps, or what we wanna do next? Or
What about
think
it?
about it, and then,
So do we wanna have another training?
I think one thing that hurts us is the Open Meetings Act. We couldn't come together to have a barbecue, you know, and, you know, get to know one another, for example, because there's 4 of us in
Well,
the space.
check with what, I would encourage you to reach out to Brad Banasek at MASB.
Yeah, that's-
If you wanted to do that, I'm not gonna say anything, cause Brad will
I mean, we could.
talk to me when I get back, but if you really wanna do that, call Brad and double check.
We could, but we couldn't talk about school board stuff.
There it is.
Right, you just
We could
can't talk
we
about.
could talk about our personality, you know, but we can't
Right.
talk about school board stuff, you
We
know.
can like eat.
Because we've had the Christmas dinner in the years past, and
Right.
we were all there, and the
Right.
staff, so.
Or you
that
come
was a
to, you
violation.
come to annual leadership conference,
Yeah.
like, you can be together. There are ways.
There are ways.
What day is the barbecue?
This is your house.
No, it's not. I'm not a cooker.
You don't sleep at night anyway.
I'm an
You
entertainer.
can stay up and cook.
I'm an entertainer.
Make it the night before, Luana, while you're up all night.
I'm an entertainer. And you know what? And I have fell asleep at board meeting, and this one here, right
But
here.
don't tell anyone.
Oh no, it was on a Saturday meeting. I'm sitting up there asleep, and she kicked me. I'm like, why you kick me? She said, you snoring. See, these are the kind of board members that you need to have instead of, or somebody else would have said, Luana, wake up. You know, I would have said, Kim, wake up, instead of kicking her. I would have let her know. I would have told everybody she was asleep. But she kicked me.
Whoever is president, I wanna sit next to Luana.
But and she finished my sentence. If I stumble, cause I ain't write it down, she said you didn't write it down. But this is what she trying to say. So yeah.
So I would like a part 2. If if that's something we
Yeah,
could do, I would
part
love to
two's
see us
good.
move into a part two. I would even like to see us for next steps, like we have a board meeting on Monday. You know, bring our little cards with us, you know, or either the team sheet, the continuum, just have it in our packet on our desk, just so we kind of have that in front of us as we're engaging in that conversation, just as a next step for implementation.
Do you guys, everybody agree with that?
Sure, sure. Okay, everyone said what they need to say?
Are we leaving early? I thought we was here till 1:30.
We don't have to be.
Thank you.
Fred, for allowing the space.
Thanks.
I would like to debrief.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
No.
We're
let's
adjourned.
go. I gotta stick around anyway, Drew's